Hey everyone, this is A.K.A.
And this is A.K.A.
And you're watching What in the World?
So in today's episode, we're going to talk about something so important that, to be honest, it's easy to kind of forget about it. It's the actual physicality of a story's world.
You mean world building means the actual world?
Yes! Our show is called What in the World, after all.
Indeed, geography is more than just America the Beautiful, purple mountains and amber grain fluff. A well-built and integrated world will be more than just a backdrop.
And it's not just about basic land forms, water, and climate either. It's about how those things can change and how they support the plants, the animals, and the humans or non-humans that need to deal with them in their daily lives. And it's also about how all of those living things have to change and adapt to fit their environment.
Geography needs detail because, especially in terms of like mythic fantasy and sci-fi, it needs to affect characters and events locally, regionally, and globally.
And I know, you guys are thinking, but that's so huge! But take heart. The scope of a world's geography depends on what's going on in the narrative. Stories that take place in one city probably don't need a whole lot of detail about the other side of the planet.
Alternatively, stories that span multiple continents can probably ignore the specific geothermal properties of some remote island the characters never go to.
But there are always exceptions. Remember, these aren't rules.
They're more like guidelines than actual rules.
That being said, geography in fantasy and sci-fi tends to end up cliché.
Not that other aspects don't have their own cliches, but geography comes last on would-be world builders' list of concerns surprisingly often.
So prepare yourself
for the What in the World Geography Cliché Roundup!
If you've played a fantasy adventure video game ever, you've probably experienced these.
The hamlet of happy villagers who are destined to die or suffer before the climax.
The improbably sunny forest just outside said town.
Not to be confused with the dark and creepy forest you get to later.
The mountain, which is either a volcano or in a perpetual snowstorm.
The desert that's hiding some ancient crypt, if you can find the bloody thing.
The underwater area that will make your life miserable.
And the big grassy field that connects them all. The fantasy may be final, but apparently we keep going to these locations anyway.
And 9 times out of 10, the cold areas are going to be in the north, and the hot areas are going to be in the south.
Oh, don't even get me started! This one drives me nuts. North equals cold, south equals hot. Every time. Apparently no fictional work takes place south of the fictional equator.
This is what happens when most world builders and their audience live in the northern hemisphere. It's just kind of something that goes unquestioned for us.
Think of your favorite science fiction and fantasy worlds. Where is this not the case? Think of one. Just one.
We'll give you some time. Moving on. Ah, the wonders of the universe. So many diverse planets to see and experience. So many new and uncharted worlds so alien from Earth. There's the planet that's all desert. The one that's all ocean. The ice planet. The lava planet. Jungle planet. Wait.
There are all kinds of scientific reasons why one-note worlds like that are plausible or implausible. But from a world-building perspective, it can be pretty disappointing to see no variation whatsoever on a planet's surface, much less to have multiple worlds guilty of the same thing.
Back to the trivia question. Did you think of Avatar: The Last Airbender? So did we. It's actually a really great counterexample, since it manages to defy all 3 cliches we've mentioned. It has integrated but various environments. It has 2 icy poles with warmer regions in between, and it clearly has multiple biomes.
Having tried and true elements in your world's geography isn't necessarily bad as long as there's some creative spin to it. The key is that it's executed well and that it does something for the story, being that all the details work together with each other in context and are fully integrated with the story. Just because you can have an elaborate cave system on a distant planet that's actually a space jellyfish doesn't mean you should. At least, not without due explanation.
So, what can geography do for a story? Well, it can add peril to a protagonist's journey, with or without the help of an antagonist.
Or it can be a daunting obstacle that must be traversed before a critical deadline.
It can be a mirror of the story's major motifs and themes.
It can contain the remnants of societies long gone, bear the scars of their battles, and tell a story all its own.
Its harsh or vast features can sculpt characters, nurture them, or isolate them.
Or even be its own character in a way by having so much creative detail and limelight that both characters and the audience are captivated by it.
And that can save otherwise mediocre use of geography. Despite how the rest of the movie might drive me absolutely crazy, I love how the flora and fauna look in James Cameron's Avatar. I even kind of like how it looks in Ferngully.
Even some of the more embarrassing products of our childhood can pull off geography well, and all it takes is some thought. And that brings us to our next segment that you've all been waiting for with bated breath, our avid viewers, all 10 of you. Get creative with your geographical elements. We love fantastic settings and crazy possibilities, especially ones that follow unique laws of nature.
Don't go too crazy or too basic, and especially don't do both in the same world. Incohesive geography can be difficult to follow and or rationalize. Superficial and uniform geography can be really uninteresting if you're not using it to do something special. Do research! Remember, science and creativity aren't enemies, they're buddies! It's way easier to justify something scientifically implausible when you know the science and can come up with a reasonable substitute.
Don't include a geographic feature for no reason other than it's cool or it's popular. We've likely seen it before, and it's really obvious that's why you did it. Audiences are smart and we expect better. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't do anything cool or popular ever, you totally can, but only if you're going to put an interesting twist on it.
Do integrate geography with your story and, more importantly, with your characters. The setting a character grows up in or currently lives in directly affects their appearance, their habits, and even their life views. Remember, they live here! A character who grew up cattle ranching on the plains will probably know the ins and outs of a cow. Similarly, a character who grows up in a really dangerous city probably knows a bit of self-defense.
And putting them in each other's places would present a geographically unique challenge, which would make things more interesting.
And when you get right down to it, that's really the whole point.
Thank you so much for watching our third video. We love you so much.
If you haven't seen our first or second video yet, you're missing out.
Go watch them if you haven't already.
And if you want to leave a comment about world building or geography or chat about your favorite fictional universes, do it.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Or you can follow us on the social medias, that is cool too.
And until then, remember to stay curious
and stay creative.